What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and being part of that collaboration in 2022 and 2021, reached out directly and indirectly as part of a team to over 100,000 fathers around the world. So as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on March 12th. The clocks went forward. So if you slept in, no problem. There's an excuse. But most Saturday afternoons, almost all Saturday afternoons, Sunday afternoons. See, my mind's in the past. Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. Eastern, we do Black Canada Talking. It's a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. And we are blessed and highly favored to do another roundtable. And we are very blessed and highly favored to have Sarah Onyango and Cesar Ndema-Moussa with us today. What is going on from your part of the world?
Do I start first?
Ladies first, of course.
Greetings from the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. Bonjour, bonjour. Je vous salue du Québec. Well, all is good. International Women's Day is done, even though there's still events ongoing. And I think we're going to be talking about our assessment of, how it was observed this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What has been going on news coverage-wise from yourself in Ottawa?
Well, as you know, Ottawa is the federal capital, and I do work for a news organization that covers all things parliamentary. And my goodness, it's all about Chinese police stations embedded in different communities across Canada. And what else are they talking about? C11, I believe.
Yes, about
the broadcast act.
Yes.
And this past week, the heads of 3 major grocery chains were hauled before a parliamentary committee to explain, although I don't know how you explain, making ridiculous profits while complaining about the high cost of agricultural inputs and all of that, which cause you to raise food prices to unprecedented levels. So a lot going on, and we also are getting ready for President Biden's visit.
Yes, it's staying overnight.
And we're getting ready for a budget, a federal budget.
Wow, lots going on.
Busy.
Lots going on. Cesar, how you doing?
I just realized I was on mute. No, I'm good, brother. Dr. Vibe, Sister Sarah Onyango. Basically, we can't wait for this winter to end.
It really started about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we really can't wait. But as I'm saying that, I have to say this Black History Month was quite interesting. Interesting. I mean, it will come again in our conversations, but 3 years after George Floyd, so a lot of the wokeness and the allyship, but also it's time to start analyzing what it really is concretely, notably all the EDI talk and institutional, etc. It was interesting for me to see yesterday. I saw a message on Facebook about how this brother, a Black man, separated from his white girlfriend or white wife, and he noticed on her Facebook that she no longer affiliates with Black Lives Matter. I mean, it sounds funny, but this is what I mean. It's like, are you really an ally? Are we really doing EDI work? Are we really addressing systemic racism, anti-racism, anti-colonization? And I think, notably with all that's happening in the U.S., aka Governor Ron
DeSantis.
Sanctimonious.
I've heard some people call him Deaf Santis, social media. So Governor Ron DeSantis war on the woke. Number 45, Trump wanting to come back. But at the same time, all they talk about, so much, so often we hear there's no money for healthcare, for education, for all these social services, etc., etc. But when it comes to Ukraine, it's the red carpet and money just keeps raining, right? So, and of course, solidarity to the people in Ukraine, starting with the Black students, our people who are victimized over there. But that's basically where I'm at, while at the same time navigating professional life, community work, appreciating always those who support me and showing support to those that I have. And if I can just very last thing.
No, take your time.
I should have it here. Oh, there you go. I just want to give before we begin, just so that I don't forget it. I was in Mississauga. I was in your part of Canada, Sunday and Monday. So a big shout out to Power Up, aka Child Welfare One Vision, One Voice initiative for Black children and youth and families in child welfare. So there was the Power Up event at the Hilton by the airport on Dixie Road in Mississauga. And it was a great success. Congratulations to the organizers, and the importance of, as a community, coming together, never leaving behind any of us. And I will say this as the last time, let us start paying more and more attention to the fact that in this country, this is I'm not going to say taboo. It's a topic that we definitely don't talk about enough. I was approached to talk about this, I think, first in 2020, but we need to talk more about the growing number of mixed children who are Black and Indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
Black and Indigenous children are rising in this country. They're already rejected in terms of white supremacy. Too often they are victims of discrimination and racism in Indigenous communities. And of course, we cannot compare Indigenous discrimination and racism to white discrimination and racism, but for that child, for that youth, what's really the difference, right? They're still a victim. So us as a Black community, we must be mindful not to forget our Black and Indigenous children and youth. They are hurting, and there's a growing number of them in child welfare.
True.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that absolutely no problem at all. That is a subject you do not hear enough about. You don't hear hardly anything about.
Yeah.
So I appreciate bringing that to our attention. So let's get into it. And Cesar, my bad. I thought you were only going to be here for the Sunday. If I would have known you were for the Sunday and Monday, I admit it was my bad. I didn't reach back out, because if you would have been telling me you would have been here on the Monday too, I probably would have been able to fit in. But we will get together and we will take a picture about it, so the world knows that two bald head Black men, intelligent Black men, can hang out together. All right?
Yes.
All right. Good stuff. Well, let's get into our first conversation topic. And Sarah is angry, and I'll just put it up here. First things first. She wants to talk about the way immigration, refugees, and Citizenship Canada treats Black and brown folks versus Ukrainians and other Europeans. Sarah?
Okay.
The mic is yours.
We're going to go there. And first of all, before I say anything at all, I really do sympathize with the people of Ukraine who have had their lives turned upside down, their homes bombarded, their villages decimated, their relatives and loved ones massacred, and have had to flee, or have died, or have had to flee this unjustified war. And, I support Canadian humanitarian efforts generally. I do. So my position is not that I'm anti-Ukrainian refugees or that sort of thing at all. No, Canada does have a reputation for welcoming, people fleeing all kinds of desperate situations and has done so forever, literally. However, the ongoing support that's being given to the people fleeing Ukraine, and it's not just Black people who are sort of looking at this, the Canadian government sideways and saying, South Asians are also kind of going, wait, what? What about people from Bangladesh and Myanmar? People from Myanmar who have had to live through a war that started way back and continues to this day. What about people from the Great Lakes region? What about people from Haiti fleeing all of that violence and ending up on the border on Roxham Road, et cetera, et cetera. So you look at those situations and you juxtapose that with the Canadian government sending planes to Europe to pick up Ukrainian refugees, fast tracking, their paperwork, and collaborating with organizations here on the ground to make sure that, there's the welcoming committee at the airport, there's housing and jobs and fast tracking of children into the school system, wherever it is these refugees are landing. So juxtapose that against a case that I had sort of closed my mind to the whole Ukraine situation, and Roxham Road, there's stories every single day, every week, people dying, getting caught, being sent back, etc. But this particular case of Betty Nagai just got me. So Betty Kalule Nagai, she's a healthcare support worker here in Ottawa, a mother of 2 young children, and facing imminent deportation, despite the fact that she has an application for permanent residence that is pending. It hasn't been ruled on. Nobody said, no, she's not eligible, send her back. But no, they want to just quickly shovel her out of the country with these kids. And she's the primary caregiver of those 2 children who are Canadian. Hello, they are Canadian citizens, okay? And basically what they want to do is to separate this mother and her children and send her back to Uganda for what? Why? What other than just inhumanity and anti-Black racism? I'm trying to understand what other reason there would be. So thankfully, the community here in Ottawa, with the support of the Secretary General of Amnesty International and her team, have been able to circulate a petition to put pressure. Somebody I know actually organized a protest in front of the Member of Parliament for Ottawa-Vanier, Mona Fortier, who happens to be the president of the Treasury Board. Treasury Board, for those of you who don't know, that's where all our money is. That controls the money in the government of Canada, okay? And so I don't know what's going on with that. From what I know, she hasn't yet been deported. But then again, just because it's not in the news doesn't mean it hasn't happened. The Canadian government has had a habit of quietly deporting people from the country, and then you turn around and find out, oh, they were deported, right? So I really, I'm all up in my feelings about this kind of behavior from our government, doing this supposedly in our name. Because remember, the Canadian government is us. It's not a bunch of, vague, shadowy figures out there. It's us. So whatever CBSA is doing, whatever IRCC is doing, that's in our name, okay? It has a Canadian flag on it. So I know, and I was reading some statistics that just, the Canadian government having deported 117,531 people between 2006 and 2014, And a lot of those people from Haiti, Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, even Syria, yes, and Somalia, and other countries, including countries that have official moratoriums on deportations. Come on. Like, what is that? Like, what is the reasoning behind it? You know, I need to see a lot of parliamentary committee investigations about that. I don't know if Cesar wants. I'm just going to calm myself down and let Cesar chime in.
Sister, I share absolutely, what you're saying, because and I've been saying it. Since last year, the situation in Ukraine started. But before that, allow me to quote a great philosopher, this great black philosopher. Unfortunately, he's more known for being a rapper. But a famous quote of his is, they can't feed the poor, or they got no money for the poor, but there's always money for war. Tupac Shakur, obviously, I misquoted him, but that's pretty much what he said. You see what happens. Governments always tell us how there's a lack of money for healthcare, education, social services. This and that adjustment or modernization costs so much. But as always, and it's not necessarily the fault. Please don't. Maybe I'm, my bias of being in leadership here, but the truth is, it's always a matter of interest. When COVID came, suddenly we saw millions and billions going into healthcare because there's a pandemic. When Ukraine comes, suddenly, and rightfully to the outrage of Sister Sarah, the Canadian government is doing everything right for Ukrainian refugees, from the welcoming them to helping them adjust, settle, etc., etc. They're doing everything right, but that's how it should be for all the other communities coming to this country. And even if they're not black, I have to say something special about the refugees from Afghanistan, especially those people, mostly men, will help the Canadian Army while in Afghanistan, and it's like they got left out. And they could be killed anytime among the families. So the Canadian government is doing things right for the Ukrainian refugees. And is this a matter of white privilege because it's Ukrainians or Europeans versus racism for blacks and brown people? It's very easy to say yes, but at the same time, I want to remind people that the Canadian government, as a Western nation, is caring more first and foremost for its people, for people who look like them. It has to be a message for us. And I say this not at all in terms of deflecting or minimizing, addressing the disproportionate treatment of refugees, depending on the part of the world where they come from. That's a fact. But I say this to contrast with another situation, which is the comments of the Tunisian president, Kais Saied, towards African, understand, black students and migrants in Tunisia. The outrage from the other African/black nations is very minimal. Yes, Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast repatriated a few of the, up to 300, I believe I read, of the students, but we're in 2023, 2017, blacks being sold as slaves in Libya. Where were these African armies to go liberate black people? So, yes, count on me to denounce the Canadian government and any Western government in terms of how they welcome so well Ukrainian refugees. Is it a matter of blonde hair and blue eyes, as many of the African students complained in regards to Ukraine and how they were not getting rescued like the white Ukrainians? Sure, count on me to address that. But let's also look at our own. Let's look at the failing of our own countries and nations. Whether we're talking about Northern Africa, like Libya and Tunisia, where are all those, 48, 49 black African nations? Where are their armies? Where are the billions of dollars that they get from oil and from XYZ that they don't have to go save African refugees in Northern Africa from dying into the Mediterranean, but they got money to organize football championships and build new stadiums? And you know I'm a big football fan. When we look at the situation of our brothers and sisters in Haiti, sure, let us complain about the Canadian government sending the army or even some planes to assist the Haitian government. Of course, we can talk about some form of colonization, etc. Sure. What about the other Caribbean nations? What about the other Caribbean nations, the other African nations saying we gotta help Haiti, the first independent, free, that succeeded its fight against slavery, the first free black nation? Let us come together to rescue our people in Haiti who will look like us. So yes, count on me to address the Canadian government and any Western government, because absolutely it's disproportional and discriminatory how the Ukrainian refugees are being so well welcomed versus non-white refugees, because that's really what it is, non-white refugees. But let us also address our own as we see the situation in Tunisia, Northern Africa, but also in Haiti.
And I would just like to jump in and say that keep in mind that Tunisia was one of the original signatories to the African Union.
Yeah.
The African Union. They are a member state. So what Cesar says is even more important. The fact that other African Union member states are not jumping in and, taking measures, right? But Cesar, speaking of Ukraine, remember how when this war broke out and news reports started coming out of the way African nationals and students and Africans married to Ukrainians were being treated, very few of these African countries were organized to airlift them or, transport them out of Ukraine to safety, or, they were just not very helpful generally. Most of the African.
It's unfortunate that, because we have to be fair to our African nations, whether we're talking about, especially in the central area, but also like in Cameroon, that receives so many refugees, but also I'm looking at Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria. On the four corners of the world, most refugees find shelter and refuge in a nearby nation. So it's not like, contrary to what white supremacists like to spread, there's not an invasion or a great replacement of black and brown people coming to replace, whether we talk about Europe or, as the president of Tunisia, Kais Saied, said, replacing the falsely Arab, because they're not really Arab, the falsely Arab white Tunisians. No. However, it is unfortunate when you see the nature of events that happen, the lack of organization, where we see Western nations pulling together for their own. And yes, we have to be blunt. If Ukraine was in Africa or in Asia, it wouldn't be the same. This is realpolitik, shared culture, European background. I don't blame them. That's not here. I'm not here to blame the Canadian government for what they're doing to Ukrainians. Ukrainians people are being victims. We watch the news. One Ukrainian killed is one Ukrainian too much. One Russian soldier killed is one Russian soldier who, unfortunately, is dying for Putin's war, because it's not like Russia didn't get invaded, right? However, we have to, as a Pan-Africanist, what about us? Mm-hmm. Why is it that we have African students risking their lives in Ukraine? I don't know, but I don't hear that there's hundreds or thousands of Ukrainian students in some African country where there might be a civil war and therefore they need refuge.
Yeah, I've never actually heard of that sort of thing. And often when you have in Africa, when there's some sort of civil strife or imminent danger, I remember in my own country, in Kenya, 2007-08, the election violence, embassies right away mobilized and airlifted their people out. I mean, even Canada was there getting their people out, the Brits and everybody else. But also another thing that is kind of just really lost on our mainstream media is the fact that these Black students in Ukraine, it's not like they went there to be tourists. A lot of them were enrolled in university and college programs, technical colleges, many of them in the sciences, medicine, etc. And thanks to them, many of these Ukrainian institutions were able to keep bankrolling, their operations, right? Because their own people were going elsewhere to find, to further their education. So this is how you thank those African students. You shove them out of trains trying to get out in the initial stages of the war. You manhandle them at the border. You put up rifles in their faces to scare them off and keep them, away from you make women walk with heavy suitcases and little kids and refuse them, rides, trying to get out of harm's way. That's how you thank them? Really? No, I mean, so what you're saying about you don't blame the Canadian government for, coming to the rescue of these Ukrainians. Okay, well and good. And I have to say that the Ukrainians, unlike, some of our Black communities, they actually have long established Ukrainian community here in Canada, especially out west in the prairies, in Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan,
Canada is a country with
even in Quebec. So in a way, they're kind of low-hanging fruit in terms of immigration success for the Canadian government.
Oh, 100%.
It's, politically speaking, in French, they say c'est payant. C'est payant. Like it pays off because we're doing this and this and this for them. But what they're not saying is, and we're able to succeed because we actually have a Ukrainian community that has means. That's another thing. They have money. They have accumulated capital. They have money, and they're able to, come together and magically produce apartments and, transportation in, where was that? Newfoundland, Labrador. They actually set up a whole bureau or something to deal with all of the paperwork for incoming Ukrainians and that sort of thing. So that's fine. The only problem is, Government of Canada, you're doing that in my name. I'm not white and I'm not Ukrainian. What about my people? What about my people? And also, you expect me to say, oh, you're doing a good job. Meanwhile, you want to kick this Ugandan woman out of the country with her 2 small children when she has been contributing to alleviating the healthcare labor shortage that you keep whining and complaining about. Really? And in Quebec, same issue with the Haitian support workers who came across the border through Roxham Road, who, people are still dragging their feet about regularizing their status here in Canada. Like, how hard is that? They're here, they've been helping in the old age homes, in long-term facilities. They do the jobs that a lot of, these white Québécois are not wanting to do because they feel they're not paid enough or not valued enough or whatever. But you're hesitating because of what? Right?
Sister Sarah, allow me to back up to agree with you fully. Some interesting fact, Canada is actually land to the second largest Ukrainian population outside of Ukraine.
Wow.
Guess where the number one is? And by the way, the number one is also where there are the most Ukrainian refugees in this current war?
Poland?
Russia.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
Boom!
Yeah.
Sarah, you
Mic drop.
Yeah. I heard
Well, that explains a lot of things.
Yeah. And if you want me to go further,
please do.
You know about the métier, l'Uriel and all that. Where do you think all these Ukrainians were left Europe due to poverty and due to oppression? Because Ukraine has a long history. First of all, we like to think of Ukrainians and Russians as cousins. That's not exactly true. Ukraine existed prior to the creation of Russia.
The Soviet Union.
Oh, before even the Soviet Union in 1917, and even before that, Russia as a state in the 16th century, Ukraine existed prior. So they're more kind of like, should we say cousin? Yes, they're Slavic, definitely. But when you talk about the Ukrainians in the West, that's on indigenous land. Some people had to be removed for the whitewashing of Canada in terms of late 19th century up to the middle of the 20th century, after World War II, actually, until the 1960s. Canada was a white nation. I had a policy of whitening the nation, and Ukrainians were greatly part of it. Just as in the U.S., surprise, surprise, the largest ethnicity, or basically where most white ancestors come from, it's not England.
Irish?
It's not Irish.
Italian.
Get that mic to drop it. It's Germany. It's Germany. That's why prior
drop the mic and everything else.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's why between 1933 and 1941, so 1933 when Hitler came to power, notably thanks to American business people who supported him, and 1941 when Pearl Harbor occurred by the Japanese, aka USA pushed Japan to war, but you have to read the fine prints there. Between 1943 and 1941, there actually was an American fascist political party in the United States. There was an American fascist party. I'm not saying white supremacy. I'm not saying neo-Nazi. I'm not saying KKK. I'm talking USA Nazi. You know, so as I'm saying that, it's basically to agree with you 100% on the fact that, like I said, I don't blame the Canadian government or Trudeau for the way they're helping the Ukrainians. I'm saying it. Good job. The hypocrisy, the problem is a nation claiming to be democratic, a nation claiming to be a champion of human rights, a nation claiming to be about anti-racism, truth and reconciliation, preaching, all these human rights, and when they talk about the international community, aka Western nations, Australia, and Japan. When the news talk about the international community, well, the hypocrisy is the way you're treating Ukrainians should be the way you also treat the others who are claiming refugee status. I mean, all those Ukrainians who are reaching Poland and the nearby countries, they're not exactly waiting at their homes and filling out the check marks on the government websites before crossing the border. They're coming just as in Chemin Roxham, some of the Haitians, Colombians, Venezuelans who are escaping the violence in their countries. Because the truth of the matter is, and again, this is not to shift accountability, but a lot of the destabilization in those countries that lead to these refugees come from geopolitics, globalization, and Western involvement. I mean, if you want to hear something really crazy, and this is one of those little facts that if you want me to help you understand how crazy what I'm talking about is, the United States once went to war against a country. Let me just give you the name of the war so that you can understand. It was called the Banana War. The United States once went to war against a country over the price of the commodity called a banana. You literally have people who died over the price in the stock market of a banana, and USA going to war against a country over it. So when you have people who become refugees, people don't just decide to be refugees. We are in winter. As Black people, I mean, I like to say it as a joke, as if living in white supremacy is not bad enough. We get all these feet of snow, white snow. The first one is always beautiful, sure, but kind of a reminder that your DNA says you should be living in warm weather. I mean, our longtime ancestors first came here and then, they became white. White supremacy hate to be reminded that the ancestors up to 6,000 years ago were actually Black, but that's a fact, scientific fact. But the reason why we are in these countries is either due to slavery or colonization, aka immigration, forced immigration or immigration by choice, due to the destabilization of other countries. So yes, great the way Ukrainian refugees are being treated, but it should be the same for all non-white refugees and immigration searchers. And yes, there are processes. We value the processes, but let us dare to address the biases and the racism, such as African students dealing with racism in immigration. And why is it that somehow, some way, it's not the students coming from the United States or from Germany, etc.
Mm-hmm. And
give me a quick moment. I'm just going on mute and off video, but I'm here.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I'm glad to see that Minister Fraser, when he was in the Maritimes earlier this week, announced that Canada was considering regularizing the status of, I forget how many, I don't know if it was tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who currently have irregular status. But let us be clear, it's not for humanitarian reasons. It's because there's a labor shortage, and that labor shortage is real. There's a business case for doing that. And what's interesting too is, so what's going to magically make bureaucrats hurry up and process all of these different files in a timely manner and in a humane way as possible, when they have been unable to do it for the last, I don't know, number of years, whether that's 10 years or 20 years or whatever. I mean, I read somewhere that every day the government of Canada deports like 35 to 40 people every day.
You're kidding.
Every damn day, every day. They just don't all get reported in the media. But I'm sure that, Amnesty International and immigrants' rights organizations keep track of that. But I did read that, up to 35 to 40 people daily just deported. And you're not going to tell me that all of those people deserve to be deported. I get the feeling, I do not work in the government and I don't work for IRCC, and I haven't spoken to someone who's on the inside, so I can't really say this with authority. But I suspect that deportations are a way to just get that file off your desk. Just get it off your desk, because there's a big pile. We want to hurry up and move on to other cases, maybe the Ukrainians, who knows? And so all of these other files are clogging up, my desk. Having, I still have to wait for this appeal and the other appeal to the Human Rights Commissioner, whatever. Deportations. It's expensive, but you know what? It just gets, I'm simplifying, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just getting the impression that that could be part of the equation nobody wants to talk about. And such decisions being made with no consideration for the human being or human beings involved in those files. I don't know if you've seen, there have been some high-profile cases in Quebec. Remember that Latino family? I think they were Mexican or something. They were holed up in a church for 2.5 years or something? Because the people of that community said, you can't do that. These are now our people. They live in our community. They've been contributing. None of them have been in trouble with the law. Their children are in our schools. We love these people. You're not taking them back. And so for local citizens to have to fight their government who are deporting inhumanely people in Canadian citizens' name. Like, somebody must be held accountable. Somebody.
Okay, I'm just going to make a suggestion here. Cesar has to leave at the top of the hour, so I think why don't we just finish out this topic
Oh,
at
women's.
the top? Okay, you want to do the women's quickly?
Well, Cesar's going to be gone, so I want to hear him about women.
Yes,
Okay.
I just wanted to say very quickly, and
He's got a woman right there. You see that, women's, and you see
daughter calling for mama, meaning calling for dada.
that could have been better.
That's why I must leave.
Right on time.
Okay, let's talk about the International Women's Day March. There you go. You see that? Okay. Cesar, you can go right quick because you got a lady waiting on you.
Yeah, so very quickly, what I was going to say is March 8th, general message. Yes, International Day for Women's Rights, but really, just like we say about Black History Month being every day, not limited to a month, women's rights is a matter of every day. It's a matter of every day where we shouldn't be waiting to have a daughter or to have a wife to suddenly care about sexual assault and rape. We shouldn't wait to have a female friend or wife in the army to suddenly care about rape as a weapon of war. And in saying this, one of the very important things that I want to remind people is about July 31st, the Pan-Africanist Day of Women, where basically the focus is on Black women's rights. So that's what I wanted to bring as a little message as I'm going back to my daughter. That's how Papa arrive. So that's basically
no problem, Cesar. Thank you for the time. We'll catch up. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you so
All
much,
right, my brother.
Thank you, Sister
Take
Sarah.
care,
Thank you, Dr.
Cesar.
Vibe.
All the best. All the best. Thank you so much. All right, there we go. So that's what we got. So
that was really cute.
So, you know, Sarah and I are both in media, and there are moments that things happen that you say we couldn't have planned it better.
Right?
Like it's just like the universe works when the universe works.
Yeah,
that could have been better. Sarah, so let's complete out. We can go a little bit past the topic if you want, but yeah. So
because this is important to me as a woman and as a Black woman. So I don't know if our audience is aware that there's usually several themes, right? There's the theme of the United Nations, and then there's the theme of the actual the country where you are. So the theme for the United Nations this year is Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. And this speaks to the fact that 22%, that's the number of women who make up artificial intelligence workers globally. And just keep in mind that AI is a rapidly expanding sector, right?
Oh, yeah.
And 44% demonstrate gender bias, these industries. And let's also talk, especially as someone in the media, about online hate, online misogyny, and anti-Black online misogyny. A survey of women journalists from 125 countries found that 73% of these women had suffered online violence in the course of their work. And I am willing to bet that that number is really high when it comes to racialized and Black women. I'm very glad that that is the theme this year because, you know, in an era of increased digitization, right? And in an era where Black women especially are going online to showcase, you know, the content they create, stories about our communities, etc., instead of wasting a lot of energy trying to get into the mainstream to do that, there's going to be people who are not happy about that, people who are very happy silencing these Black female voices, and people who were very happy putting the brakes on the agency that these online media provide, whether it's podcasting or YouTube, etc. Dr. Vibe, I've seen some of the comments in your chat, like you get some really awful comments on there. So can you imagine a woman, what she has to go through on top of the anti-Black racism, the misogynoir that she has to deal with as well, and then the very little protection that you get against the perpetrators of this online hate. So this year I noticed there were more conferences that focused on online harassment and violence against women. And it's something that governments, including ours, whether it's municipally, provincially, or federally, have to address with seriousness. Don't give the slap on the wrist. Have these internet service providers provide IP addresses and get people arrested and outed and arrested. Name, shame, jail. That's all they'll understand.
Name, shame, jail.
Name, shame, and jail. It's a hate crime. It's a hate crime. Put that under the hate crime.
Sarah, you've had, in my opinion, a very esteemed career in the media. How has it changed, if any, for Black women in media from your lens? Oh, gosh. Oh, okay. All right.
Well, it hasn't necessarily changed by leaps and bounds. There have been trailblazers that have kicked down doors and sort of pulled other women through that door behind them and enabled a new generation to sort of find their way in the media. I get the sense that Black women in media don't have those rose-colored glasses anymore in terms of my excellence will speak for itself. I think they've lost all of those illusions after hearing the stories of all these other Black women. Arissa Cox was here in Ottawa. They decided she needed to fix her hair. Can you imagine? When she was with the new RO here in Ottawa. And I'm watching a newscast, and next thing you know, she's announcing her departure on the air live.
Wow.
Following that incident.
Wow.
So what Arissa did back then, like decades before her, that most likely would not have happened. Like a Carlene Nation, for example, who
yes.
Carlene Nation is an OG. She is the queen. She is.
Yes.
I do not have an esteemed career. Carlene Nation has an esteemed career. Okay. Marcy Ian has an esteemed career. These are women who you have no idea what they've had to endure, the indignities, the how did you get here questions, the who did you sleep with, and the you are a minority hire and you are the token, and all of those nasty comments. And yet they persevered.
Yeah.
Held their heads up.
Yeah.
And were just dignified. You didn't hear a whole bunch of stuff online that they said about this or whatever. They quietly went about, what they felt they were there to do, and found other ways to get their revenge.
Yeah. Sometimes success is the best revenge.
There you go. And sometimes you just go to a competitor and shine over there, So whereas before Black women, looked at those closed doors and, the wringing of the hands, etc., they have seen many more examples of women who refuse to be beaten down and beaten back and held back, and have taken strength and inspiration from that and have empowered themselves. That's another thing. Black women empowering themselves, okay? Whether it's a Camille Dundas who decided, you know what? I got some skills. And I got a husband who's in marketing. Let me just let's see what I can do. You know, I'm more than this. And look what she has created based on that. And look at how many businesses she has empowered, how many individuals she has mentored since her departure from a certain mainstream media organization, you know. So our young Black aspiring female journalists can look to someone like her and say, it's not the end of the world when they close those doors or keep lowering the ceiling so you can't rise. You find your way around them and you create your own opportunity. And that's another thing that I've seen with my Black sisters in media that I just love. Shelley Jarrett with her publication, Nicole Waldron with her podcast, Victory Speaks, you know, Patricia Bebyamawa, who with her husband created an entire network, a whole network featuring all kinds of Black content and Black creators and Black stories, right? So, you know, it's two things. There's still the people who feel really threatened by us because they know, and that's the theory I have, they feel threatened because they have no idea of a Black woman's power, but they're scared of it. They're scared to death of it. They really, truly, truly are. So they keep trying to sort of stifle it and put it in a bag and stuff it somewhere. And just when they think, okay, we've thrown some DEI initiatives at them and that should keep them quiet. And we've put a bunch of them on some covers, magazine covers. We've done some features in some mainstream newspapers and publications. That should shut them up for a while. You know, we're so over the George Floyd thing. We're done. We're good. Blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? We Black all the time and we female all the time. And we are going to continue to make a way where you make no way. That's who we are as Black women. We're just, you know, our ancestors did not survive the way they did just by saying, oh, yes, massa, yes, massa. They may have said yes, massa, but as soon as massa was gone, they were like, so here's what we're going to do. We're finding another way to do this.
Absolutely.
So there's a whole sort of movement to liberate ourselves and not sitting there waiting on the so-called mainstream to do that for us. And I'm glad to see, you know, a lot of Black female influencers also in the media space who are, you know, also creating opportunities. I don't always agree with what they do, but, you know, if it's a way to empower themselves towards something else, towards something higher and better, I'm all for it.
Sarah, thank you. Very well and eloquently put. Thank you. You delivered as always, and I know that there are many who are with you, many of your sisters and my sisters that agree with you 100%. So thank you for that was beautiful.
And one thing I want to mention as well is, you know, International Women's Day, feminism, etc. Black women's feminism does not exclude Black men at all, in any way, because we're very community oriented. Community and family.
That's our heritage.
Yes. So our men are de facto a part of our fight, right? So I just want to make sure I presence that as well.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Very well put. Sarah, how can people get in touch with you?
Black on Black every Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon. And you see the email address up there, blackonblack891@hotmail.com.
How many years has Black on Black been going on now?
Oh Lord. I got it already existed when I got there. I believe 1992. It started off as a half-hour show and then it moved.
So it's been going on for 30 plus years now?
Wow.
What?
And I've been a member of the Black on Black crew since 1998.
Congratulations. Thank you. It's amazing. 30 years.
Yeah, and I'd like to shout out the OGs who started
Please do.
Black on Black. Jackie, Adrian, the other Jackie, Pat, Angela, and all the many contributors we've had throughout those years. Because here in Ottawa, the Black on Black crew has kept the community connected and informed consistently every Saturday morning without fail.
I know it was probably a little bit after things started opening. Was there a 30-year anniversary show?
But it was like online because the studio was closed. You know, our community radio stations tend to be based on campus, and all the campuses were closed.
Understood.
So we just did it remotely like everybody else, you know.
Well, I'm speaking it that you will do the part 2, the real celebration, maybe this year. The real celebration. So. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations to
Thank you.
Everyone that's been involved.
Yeah.
Wow.
CHU 89.1 FM. Yes.
Hey, and people say, well, how did you get started? That was my beginning, campus radio.
That's it.
Campus, if anyone wants to get involved in this industry, especially from a broadcast, campus radio is a great place to do your training ground.
Very much so.
Because if you can do it at campus radio, then you can do it anywhere else. That's just me.
Absolutely.
A great training ground.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you as always. Remember to give yourself grace. And again, that was beautiful. Your words of encouragement and support and vigor when it comes to Black Canadian women. And we support you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Another epic conversation today on Black Canada Talking. So we do it every Sunday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern time. On the bottom here, it's saying you can watch replays of Black Canada Talking at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, you can catch it on my website, the drvibeshow.com. A few other things. If you want to get a hold of me, there's a website address, the email address, dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show, Twitter, @drvibeshow, and Instagram, @the drvibeshow. A few other things as we close out here. We'd love you to subscribe to The Dr. Vibe Show. You can do it on YouTube. Just put in The Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Hit subscribe and also notification. So when you hit the notification button, that also gets you notified of upcoming conversations. We got more, even as of tomorrow morning, we even have some more conversations coming up. Like it on Facebook. Excuse me. Basically, wherever you're watching it, subscribe. Wherever you're watching it, subscribe. We appreciate that. Also, one other quick thing. If you'd like to promote your business or service on our show, please contact me at dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. This is how we close out. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and don't take it for granted. And remember to give yourself grace. Take care. Yeah.